You know that feeling, right? It's January 1st, or maybe just a random Tuesday where you get this, I don't know, this burst of energy. And you sit down and you decide, this is it. This is the year I finally learned Spanish or French or Japanese, whatever it is.
You buy all the books, you download the apps.
Exactly. The expensive books, the app with that aggressive little owl that guilt trips you, and you feel fantastic for about, what, 10 days?
10 days is generous, I think, for some of us.
Right. And then 3 weeks later, the books are just coasters. You've ghosted the app, and you're left with this nagging feeling of guilt.
And we always tell ourselves, oh, I just got too busy, or my memory's not what it used to be.
The classic excuses. We think it's a character flaw, but we're doing a deep dive today into a stack of research that suggests that is all completely wrong.
Yeah, the source material we're looking at is called Text to Coller, and it argues the reason you quit isn't because you're lazy. It's because there is, and this sounds dramatic, but a literal war going on between your emotions and your brain's structure.
A war. I like that framing. So this research sits at the intersection of what psycholinguistics and generative AI.
Exactly. It's looking at these deep-seated psychological and neurological barriers that actively sabotage you when you try to learn a language. And the really provocative part is that Gen AI might be the key to unlocking them.
Which is a huge claim. Because usually when we talk about AI and language, it's, Google Translate or kids using ChatGPT to cheat.
Sure.
But this source is framing AI as a psychological safety net.
That's the core concept.
Yeah.
The research breaks the problem down into 3 big categories. First, you've got the affective barriers. That's the feelings part, the anxiety.
Okay.
Second, the neurocognitive deficits. That's the brain's hardware. And third, what they call the sociomaterial constraints, which is basically the ethical mess of using AI to teach humans.
I want to start with the feelings part, because that's where the war really begins for me. Before my brain can even process the grammar, my emotions have already slammed the door. The text brings up something called control value theory.
Right. Yeah, this is a big framework in educational psychology. And it's pretty intuitive once you break it down.
Okay.
Control value theory says your emotions like anxiety, boredom, frustration, they don't just pop out of thin air. They're the result of 2 quick calculations your brain is making: control and value.
So can I control this?
Yeah.
And do I care about this?
Essentially, yeah. Think about a language class. The teacher starts speaking really fast in Spanish. You get lost instantly. Your sense of control just plummets.
I have lived that moment. You just freeze.
Freeze. And that triggers high anxiety. But on the flip side, imagine you're doing boring, repetitive drills.
Yeah.
The cat is on the table.
The dog is on the table.
You can do it, so you have control.
Yeah.
But you see zero value in it. It feels pointless. And that triggers boredom, which is just as destructive as anxiety.
So it's a trap. If it's too hard, I panic. If it's too pointless, I check out.
Precisely. And in language learning, this hardens into something the literature calls foreign language anxiety.
Oh, speaking anxiety is the killer. It's that feeling where you know the sentence in your head, you can literally see the words, but the second you have to open your mouth, your throat just closes up.
You're terrified of sounding stupid.
Or accidentally insulting someone.
And that fear leads to what they call a reduced willingness to communicate. You stop trying. And if you don't produce language, you don't learn. But here's where it gets really interesting. The research connects this anxiety to something called the L2 motivational self system.
That sounds like a self-help book. What is that?
It's a theory that says to be a successful learner, you need to have a really vivid image of your ideal L2 self.
L2 being the second language.
Right. So you have to be able to close your eyes and clearly see the future you. The you that's ordering coffee in Rome or negotiating a deal in Tokyo effortlessly.
So it's not just, I want to learn French. It's, I want to become the version of me that speaks French.
Yes, it's about identity. Because if you can't vividly imagine that competent future self, your motivation just collapses when things get hard.
Okay, so this is where the robots come in. The source says Gen AI can actually hack this whole system. I'm guessing because the AI doesn't judge you.
That's the headline benefit. The text calls the AI environment a judgment-free zone. I mean, think about it. When you speak to a teacher, there's always a social tax. You're managing their impression of you.
You don't look stupid.
Exactly. And that raises what they call the affective filter, which literally blocks information from getting in.
But if I'm typing into a chatbot, I don't care if I mess up. It's just code. I can get the verb wrong 5 times and it won't roll its eyes at me.
And because that social pressure is gone, the affective filter lowers. You're willing to take risks. But it does more than that. It actually helps you build that ideal L2 self we were talking about. Through
Right.
tangible progress, the feedback from an AI is immediate. It's iterative. You write a sentence, it corrects you, you try again, you get it right. You see the win instantly.
It makes the progress feel real.
It proves to your brain, hey, I can do this. It reinforces that vision of your competent future self.
It bridges the gap between struggling me and fluent me. But, and there's always a but, the text warns about something called the uncanny valley.
Yes, and this is a critical caveat. We want the AI to be supportive, but the research shows that if it tries too hard to seem human, it can seriously backfire.
The uncanny valley. That's the creepy feeling you get when a robot looks almost human, but something's just off. The eyes are dead or something.
Exactly. And in a learning context, this happens when an AI tutor acts super sophisticated. It uses slang, it seems empathetic, but then it makes a bizarre error or hallucinates a fact.
And that mismatch just shatters the trust.
It completely breaks it. You go from, this is my helpful tutor, to, this is a deceptive machine.
So the source says the AI shouldn't try to trick you. It needs to be predictable.
We want a reliable tool, not a deceptive quasi-human.
Got it. So don't pretend to be my best friend. Just be a really good, non-judgmental editor.
That's the sweet spot.
Okay, so we've covered the feelings. Now I want to get into the hardware, the brain itself, because the source gets pretty technical here with two terms: idea density and grammatical complexity.
Yeah, these are dense concepts, but they are absolutely crucial. Let's break them down. So idea density, or ID, is basically a measure of semantic richness.
So how much actual stuff am I saying? The efficiency of my words.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It counts the number of propositions. So distinct units of meaning per unit of language. High ID means you're packing a lot of information in a small space.
And low ID is like a politician filibustering. Lots of words, saying nothing.
Perfect example. Grammatically fine, but semantically empty. Which brings us to the second metric, grammatical complexity, or GC. This measures the sophistication of your syntax. Are you using embedded clauses, passive voice, that kind of thing?
So ID is the what and GC is the how, the meat of the sandwich versus the fancy bread. Why does this matter for a language learner?
Because under stress, what we call high cognitive load learners often experience a mismatch.
A mismatch.
Yeah. When your brain is overwhelmed, you might prioritize one over the other. You might focus so hard on getting the grammar perfect high GC that you forget to actually say anything meaningful. So, low ID.
I do that all the time. I'll use some fancy connector word just to buy time and then say something totally basic.
Or the opposite happens. You have a really complex ID, you want to express high ID, but your grammar collapses and you end up speaking in, Tarzan talk.
Yeah.
Me, want, go.
So frustrating.
Yeah.
But there was this detail in the text that honestly it just stopped me in my tracks. It connected idea density to neurodegenerative diseases. This isn't just about French class anymore.
Oh, this is the surprising fact from the source, and it is profound. Clinical evidence shows that low idea density, that habit of using empty words, is actually an early predictor of Alzheimer's disease.
That is heavy.
It's a marker of cognitive decline. The ability to pack meaning into words starts to fade years before other symptoms show up. And on the other hand, conditions like primary progressive aphasia affect the grammatical complexity. The structure breaks down, but the meaning, the semantic intent, stays intact.
So these aren't just abstract linguistic rules, they're like vital signs for brain function.
Correct. And this is why the application of Gen AI here is so exciting. The source suggests it can act as a linguistic fingerprint.
Like a diagnostic tool.
Exactly. An AI can scan your writing practice instantly and tell you exactly where the bottleneck is. It can say, hey, your grammar is perfect, but your idea density is low. You're not challenging yourself conceptually.
Or the reverse. Great ideas, but you need to work on your sentence structure.
Right. It moves you away from generic practice makes perfect to highly targeted brain training. And that leads to this concept of cognitive reserve.
I loved this part. Break it down for us.
Cognitive reserve is basically the brain's resilience. The research suggests that engaging in linguistically demanding tasks, so tasks that force you to have high ID and high GC, actually builds this reserve. It's like resistance training for your neurons.
So the AI shouldn't just make learning easy. If it's too easy, we aren't building the muscle.
Exactly. It should provide scaffolded challenges. It should push you to be slightly denser, slightly more complex than you would be on your own. It should make you sweat a little. That's what builds long-term brain health.
Wow. So we're using Spanish practice to stave off cognitive decline. I'm sold. Okay, we have to look at the other side of this. We've talked feelings, we've talked brain, but the source has a whole section on the sociomaterial challenges, the black box problem.
And we absolutely cannot ignore this part. If we're going to rely on these tools, we have to understand the risks.
The black box basically just means we don't know how the AI is making its decisions.
Correct. When a human teacher grades your essay, you can ask them, why did I get a B? And they can explain their reasoning.
Right, your argument was weak here or whatever.
Yeah, but when an AI assesses you, the process is totally opaque. It just spits out a correction, and neither you nor the teacher can see the logic that led to it.
That opacity really undermines trust. But the bigger issue the source brings up is bias.
Bias and homogenization, yeah.
I mean, we hear about bias in tech a lot, but how does that specifically hurt me when I'm just trying to learn a language?
Well, think about the data these models are trained on. It is overwhelmingly English dominant or focused on, standard versions of major languages.
So if I'm learning Spanish, the AI is probably pushing me towards some standardized neutral dialect.
It might. If you're trying to learn the specific slang and cadence of, say, a rural part of Colombia, because that's where your family's from, the AI might actually correct you.
It would mark me wrong for sounding authentic.
It might push you toward the dominant norm. And the source calls this a risk of dehumanization. We risk stripping away all the quirks and the cultural textures that make language human and replacing it with a flat, robotic standard.
So it's like we're all being trained to speak corporate press release.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And for a learner, that is a loss of identity.
Right.
And then, of course, there are the hallucinations.
Right. The AI can just make stuff up.
And it does it so confidently.
Mm-hmm.
The source says it can generate plausible but incorrect explanations. And for a beginner, that's a nightmare. You don't have the knowledge to spot the lie.
The confident liar is always the most dangerous.
So, okay, we have a tool that can lower our anxiety and diagnose our brain health, but it might also lie to us and erase our cultural identity. That's a tricky balance.
That is.
So does the source just say, ban the bots?
No, absolutely not. The potential benefits are too high. Instead, it proposes a human-in-the-loop approach, a division of labor.
A partnership.
Think of the AI's job as the grunt work. Outlining, checking basic grammar, finding patterns, the nuts and bolts.
So the AI handles the mechanics. What's the human's job? High-level interpretation, value judgments, critical thinking, empathy. The teacher, or even you as the learner, has to be the one to look at the AI's output and ask, is this culturally appropriate? Is this actually what I meant to say? Is this even true?
So you have to stay the captain of the ship. The AI is the GPS, not the driver.
Exactly. If you let the GPS drive the car, you might end up in a lake. You need to keep your hands on the wheel.
This brings me back to that idea of cognitive reserve. I can't stop thinking about that link between language complexity and brain health.
It's the most compelling takeaway for me, too.
It just makes me wonder, as we integrate these tools more and more, are we using AI to challenge our brains, to make them denser and richer, or are we just using it to offload all the hard work?
And that is the ultimate question, isn't it? It's so easy to use AI to write the email, to fix the grammar, to translate the text. It's convenient. But if we do that every time, we're denying our brains that exercise.
I'm taking the elevator instead of the stairs.
And if the research on idea density in Alzheimer's tells us anything, it's that we really need to take the stairs. The goal should be to use AI to build a stronger brain, not a lazier one.
A stronger brain, not a lazier one. I think that's the perfect place to leave it. A huge thank you to the authors of the Text Collies synthesis for giving us so much to think about.
It was a pleasure to unpack it.
And to you listening, don't let that owl guilt trip you, but maybe give those difficult grammar drills another shot. Your brain will thank you for it later. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Keep learning.